Australia's marketing industry faces a deepening crisis of confidence as economic pressures and consumer caution trigger unprecedented structural changes that challenge the traditional operations. Let's head to Sydney now. We're joined by Darren Woolley from Trinity P3. Good to see you, sir. Talk to us about how we can assess the true state of Australia's marketing economy and how does it differ from what's happening in the rest of the world?
Well, look, what I think we're seeing here is what we're seeing globally is the incredible uncertainty that's being struck by geopolitical tensions. We're seeing economic confidence dropping. In March, it was the lowest consumer and business confidence we've seen for a number of years. And for the advertising industry and the marketing industry, which largely relies on being quite optimistic, all of this negativity is actually having an impact. Overlay that with the huge number of redundancies we're seeing across the industry, largely being blamed on AI. And yet, you would have to say on any realistic measure, AI is being used as the excuse rather than the reason for laying people off. So, the industry is feeling a lot of gloom and doom at the moment about the immediate future.
It's interesting. Does the marketing industry reflect what's happening in the economy before it's felt by, say, the inflation figures, or is there a lag and it feels it after? What would you say?
I think it's probably a lag because, you have to remember in 2007-8, where the rest of the world had a global recession, Australia largely skipped through that based on our mining industry keeping the numbers looking quite good and continued economic growth. Whereas I think the advertising and marketing industry, because mining spends relatively little unless they've got some agenda to push, is not really supporting the marketing and advertising industry. We've got to look at consumer confidence because that's ultimately where most of the advertisers are looking when they're trying to push their money. And when money gets tight, when the economy gets tight, often the first thing that gets cut is the advertising spend. Now, having said that, the IAB, which represents all the major digital platforms, media, both the Metas and Googles of the world, but also News Corp and Nine, has come out and said, well, in Australia in the first quarter of this year, digital advertising's booming and has hit a record $4.9 billion. So we're getting mixed messages here, Ahron. On one side, there's a sentiment which says that things are a bit gloom and doom. On the other side, you would have to say the numbers seem to indicate a boom time. The thing that the IAB didn't say, though, is what is the impact on the non-digital media channels, such as broadcast TV, radio, out of home. And that's the interesting numbers to look at because they are either static or...
Well, we've heard from them, right? We've heard from the free-to-air broadcasters that things were pretty tough, double-digit drops over the past year in some months alone for some of the broadcasters as well. It's interesting you talk about the boom in digital media and not elsewhere. Is it as simple as the old world of media is really struggling in terms of ROI and marketers post-COVID are now looking towards digital because that's what their clients are noticing and wanting?
Absolutely. The traditional media, and particularly news media, has really struggled in this post-COVID era because marketers are increasingly not supporting it for fear of, having their ads appear next to bad news. And I think it's actually quite ridiculous because there's a lot of positive sentiment in really good news coverage, and particularly outside of the major.
It's also a very engaged audience as well, right? It's also people who are, if you're interested in news, you probably have your hand on your phone ready to post what you think. Whereas if you're kicking back watching some entertainment, you're probably enjoying it and not really thinking. So it's more of a passive kind of skill, whereas news media is a lot more engaging.
Absolutely. And what I was going to continue with is that it's also diversified. There's now more news sources than ever before. And this is meaning that the audience can be more targeted, on their social outlook. Are they progressives? Are they conservative? So you can actually, as a marketer, start using news media as a way of targeting your audience and the way they think and view the world. So, it's a great opportunity. Unfortunately, the marketers are moving to the platforms because of this belief in last click attribution, and the platforms are telling them that it works really well. The question is, does it? And are these businesses growing?
And if I am a business owner with a tightening budget, but I need to do some marketing, why wouldn't I just do it myself with the help of AI if they make the platform? I mean, we kind of taking the art out of the skill of marketing, do you think?
Yeah, look, but I think we have to be careful. AI is helping a lot with productivity. I'm not sure it's actually replaced yet the human intuition and strategic thinking, the ability to think beyond what already exists. Most of AI has been trained on the past, and at best, being a predictive model, it will just bring you to the average. So yes, AI is interesting, it's exciting, it can absolutely help with productivity. I'm not sure it's actually rushing ahead in performance as yet.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to watch. So what do you think, I guess, marketing professionals should be doing to adapt to the new operating reality? You are a man who loves a conference. What are they saying?
Well, look, absolutely. All of the messaging coming out of the industry is focus on people first, because while there's lots of talk about AI will be doing all the purchasing for consumers, consumers are still buying and they're still making purchase decisions in most cases. They're certainly using AI to see what their options are, but I don't think we've automated buying at this point to the point that we've taken humans out. So let's start with looking at the consumer first, and then building back from that on how to connect them to your business and your brand so that you are their preference. And I think that's a lesson that will continue for quite a while ahead. So marketers, don't be caught out by the new shiny thing. Just because a promise is made, you need evidence and proof to actually prove that it's worth investment.
All right, now legal experts are warning small businesses mocking the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's capital gains tax reforms with AI-generated memes. They could face potential lawsuits. Interested in your thoughts on this one. Here are some of, the highlights. Essentially saying, here's the Prime Minister, my new business partner. They have used AI to bring him in. Some lighthearted, some not. What do you think's the risk here for some of the people doing this?
Well, look, this is really interesting, and it certainly got my attention because, we like to think that
marketing that worked.
Well, we like to think we're about free speech, but there's a lot of regulations around this. And from a legal perspective, and reading the legal advice that comes through the media, what this is about is don't be misleading and deceptive. In many ways, you could argue that many of these are deep fakes and that they're actually misrepresenting the Prime Minister as endorsing these businesses. And the thing that caught my attention
come on,
was
surely they're having a bit of fun with it. I mean, imagine if the Prime Minister sued them.
Well, and that was going to be the point, which is, you could say it's satirical, you could say it's a protest, but the law, as it applies to misleading and deceptive conduct in advertising and social media, because you're a business, is that if the average person was misled by this, and so even things like disclaimers saying this is AI generated and this is satirical, it would not actually get you off the hook. And so, I think businesses, this is a bit of a wake-up call. Though I agree with you, why would the Prime Minister go to the trouble of suing you? But the ACCC could certainly come involved if it's misleading and deceptive conduct and you're misleading consumers. Recently, when Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were in Australia, there were a number of businesses that created deep fakes, making it look like they attended their store or their shop or their restaurant to enjoy the food. Does that infer to the average person that the ex-royals were dining there? If it did, they've been misleading and deceptive. I think it's an interesting conundrum. I'm not sure there's actually a lot of risk. I think this might be some lawyers trying to drum up some business.
There they are, by the way. I should have had them here at TICKER. It would have been great, but I think the thing that gives it away is that I can't imagine either of them eating that. What do you think?
No, and particularly Meghan wouldn't be wrapping around her mouth around Nina's whatever that was.
That's the grab. All right, so I will see you again next week. Always appreciate your insights right here on TICKER. Darren Woolley there from Trinity P3.
Thanks, Ahron.